Hi, so my name is Vikki Hill. I'm an educational developer in the academic enhancement team at University of the Arts London, and I co-lead a strand of academic development work around fostering belonging and compassionate pedagogy with my colleague Liz.
Hi, I'm Liz Bunting. I'm also an educational developer at University of the Arts London.
Excellent. So we've just got a few minutes here to talk to you about the work that we're doing around compassionate assessments, and to introduce some of our thinking around this with you. Liz and I work predominantly with course teams, and we really look at exploring how we can foster belonging through teaching practices that are compassionate. We were interested in this idea of compassionate approach to pedagogy that focuses on the human connection, what El-Khoury would call the pedagogy of love. And we're interested particularly in how higher education institutions have been responding to the impacts of the pandemic and well-being of staff and students. So we take compassion as a complex concept, and we take Theo Gilbert's definition as our kind of anchor. So Theo defines compassion as the noticing of social or physical distress to others and a commitment to reduce or prevent that distress. So compassion is sometimes conflated with other related concepts such as pity or kindness or empathy, but it's the action that sets it apart and the motivation to alleviate that suffering. So this kind of activism is what we're really interested in. We've been doing some work around no detriment policies, which were the kind of safety net policies that were put in place to mitigate against the effects of the COVID pandemic. And Liz is going to speak to you about some of our findings and the research that we've been doing.
So we started to research the relationship between grading and belonging, because we had an opportunity to look at what attitudes and behaviours were around grading when they were taken away, when we were looking at pass-fail assessment as a mode of delivery. And when we started to explore these attitudes about grades, we saw 4 interconnected themes which related to emotional harm, which were quite surprising and really quite unsettling. And what we found initially was that grades were really adding to stress and anxiety. So when we moved to a pass-fail scenario, that was really lifted. But these grades were also acting more so as an indicator of self-worth. So by removing grades, what we found is we kind of exposed students' dependency on grades to feel recognition and self-esteem, which could then lead to kind of damaging behaviours such as perfectionism, rumination, and indeed feelings of inadequacy. A third area of harm we found were the damage that grades were doing to relationships, both peer-to-peer and student-to-staff. Because what grades were doing is they were promoting isolation and separation through the competitiveness and the power relationships which were established through them. And this damage to the trusting relationships, kind of encouraged by grades, actually then bred self-censorship. So what we saw were that some students were left feeling that they couldn't be authentic in their assessments, which led to some instances where students would adhere to the perceptions of what knowledge they thought was valued. So we're really compelled by how these harms might be impacting our students' sense of belonging, because what we're seeing is that grading seems to be counterproductive to the relational formation of belonging itself. And these power imbalances that were coming through implicit in grading were promoting a culture of students assimilating to norms in order to fit in, rather than authentically being their whole selves and bringing that to their learning. And they also seem to be hindering a recognition of students' own value in their courses, in their communities, because they're emphasising external indicators of self-worth rather than internal indicators of self-worth, which were kind of leading to what we kind of call belonging uncertainty. So this internal questioning of, do I belong here?